On to one of our headline stories. Congress MP and leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi's comment on the floor of the House today that Union Foreign External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar was sent 3 to 4 times to get an invite for Prime Minister Modi for President Donald Trump's inauguration in the US has been categorically denied by the minister. Taking to X, the minister said, and I quote, "Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi deliberately spoke falsehood about my visit to the US in December last year. I went to meet the Secretary of State and NSA of the Biden administration, also to chair a gathering of our Consul Generals. During my stay, the incoming NSA-designate met with me." Those were the words of the External Affairs Minister on X. He also further goes on to clarify, at no stage was an invitation in respect of the Prime Minister discussed. It's common knowledge that our Prime Minister does not attend such events. In fact, India is generally represented by special envoys, said the minister. So this is a direct rebuttal by Union Minister, External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar. Remember, earlier today, while speaking in Parliament, Rahul Gandhi made this charge that there were ministers being sent 3 to 4 times in order to get an invite for Prime Minister Modi to US President Donald Trump's inauguration ceremony. That was a direct jibe at the Prime Minister by Rahul Gandhi. To that, we have, of course, at the time itself, seen the Treasury benches object. Union Minister Kiran Rijiju also objected at another point, of course, of Rahul Gandhi's speech, essentially calling these unsubstantiated claims. And now we have seen a direct rebuttal counter from the External Affairs Minister himself. If I can bring in in fact, Manju said, former ambassador is joining us on the show. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us here on NDTV. First of all, if you can just explain to our viewers, because a lot of them might be thinking this is not how things actually work in terms of protocol, how exactly are invites given out for US presidential inauguration events?
For these inaugural events, it's absolutely their prerogative. And usually the organizing team of the incoming president, they decide on who, of course, in consultation with the president-elect, that who will be invited. But if you look at in the normal course, I don't think the Indian prime ministers have ever attended such inauguration ceremonies. Usually a special envoy has been sent. And even the last inauguration, if I remember right, it was the the Indian ambassador to the US who attended it, who represented India at the inauguration. And I think that is what is normally done. And in this particular case, if you see all the other invitees who were there, it was a 4-quad foreign minister. So the protocol would be that you either invite all 4 heads of government if you're inviting planning a kind of quad meeting which was being planned. You can't pick and choose. Normally in protocol terms, it's not done. And so they would have, either invited all the heads of the quad, like, in India's case, we invited all the neighborhood or BIMSTEC countries or whatever. It is our prerogative for our prime ministers swearing in. So similarly, in their country, in other countries also, they take a decision on what level of participation, who would be the invitees, whether they need to invite anyone from abroad at all. So that is their prerogative. They usually decide based on their own priorities and the bilateral relationship. But often I find that it is special envoys or the local or the representative ambassadors in that particular country who represent their countries, their prime ministers in such inauguration.
In the light of this, ma'am, what you just said, how do you see a leader of opposition making such statements on the floor of the House and Parliament?
I think, I feel it could be just political points that they're trying to make, I think. But I don't know if he has some inside information, but normally foreign ministers, in my experience, in my knowledge, do not travel to get invitations for heads of government from any country. Very rare. It's very rare and not usually done. Even in, it's usually the local ambassador based in that country, in the capital of that country, who, if at all, this kind of thing is done is going to be the communicator. The foreign minister would definitely not, in my experience and knowledge, go to get an invitation for our prime minister or head of government. I think it's not done, normally not done.
Mm-hmm. Ma'am, one final question actually. You know, these are early days of India, in a way, once again, getting to know officials who have been appointed in the second term of Donald Trump's presidency. At this stage, for Rahul Gandhi to make a charge like this in Parliament, also pointing out in a way the China equation, essentially saying that China is taking an edge against India when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to the race of becoming the global manufacturing hub. Considering that he's speaking from the position of the leader of opposition and making such big comments, which of course, whether or not they have any sort of repercussion or not, of course, the Treasury benches are objecting to it. But in the early days of India, in a way, once again, strengthening its US and India ties, do you see, because the government, of course, is saying that there's potential to cause damage through these remarks?
Yes, they could be misinterpreted by foreign governments, such remarks. But I think if the relationship is mature, like in the case of India and the US, I do not think it will make too much of an impact. Yes, it does, in a way, just reflect that there is a lot of division within the country. But otherwise, I do not think will really affect the relationship as we go forward. And we are already seeing that, President Trump, his nature of conducting diplomacy and world relations or world affairs, I think is very unique. And he will see what is in US's favor, what works for them to make America great again, as per his statement. Mm-hmm. And I think all his actions, tariffs, and all the other things that he's been threatening, I think everything is part of his functioning style. And he will do what needs to be done. And this creates a little, these kind of statements within our country do reflect some kind of division between the government and the opposition. But I'm not sure that it's going to affect the relationship really. There will be other factors. These statements don't really have that impact.
Right. Ma'am, we've also seen that the Union External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar actually put out a counter immediately, almost within a few minutes of Rahul Gandhi making this comment on X, actually, in a way, setting the record straight from the government's point of view. Is that also something which you feel is a very wise move from the government side?
Yeah, I guess he would have felt it necessary to do so to set the record straight. But again, as I mentioned, it really reflects that there is far too much division. Up till, we usually, the government and the opposition usually like to, they usually used to, they like to would work together to project a unified stand. But I think nowadays that has changed. And sometimes they work together, sometimes they don't. But the record had to be set straight by the minister. I think he was, he was constrained to do so, considering that the statement was made in Parliament. So he had to set the record straight.